Hi, I'm Karen Romano Young, and I am back with part 4 of A Girl, a Raccoon, and the Midnight Moon, written by me, read by me, pictures by Jessixa Bagley, and published by Chronicle Kids in 2020. Part 4, The Plot Twists. The courage that my mother had went with her, and is with her still. Rock from New England quarried, now granite in a granite hill. From The Courage That My Mother Had by Edna St. Vincent Millay. From the poem The Courage That My Mother Had, from Mine the Harvest by Edna St. Vincent Millay, Harper, 1954. Chapter 43, Behind the Mask. October 31st, 7 days to Election Day. It was 4 p.m. on October 31st. The portable stage Ms. Judge had lent the library stood beside the statue. Already, people had brought jack-o'-lanterns, enough to line the side of the driveway and the paths through the garden to Vincent. Pearl looked down at them from Bruce's office and felt optimistic. Bruce did not. "Pearl," he began carefully, "I don't want you to be disappointed. A party like this might make for hire Cirque, and it might even get us enough donations to buy a couple of computer terminals. But it won't change anything unless the library was already the heart and soul of the neighborhood. It's supposed to help people see what they'd be missing if they let the library close," said Pearl, "so they will vote for it." It was as if he hadn't heard her. "I've just spoken with the mayor's office. She's appearing at some fundraiser for the fire department, and she's running late. I doubt she's even coming." Since it was the first Pearl had heard that Her Honor was even considering coming, this seemed like decent news. "How will you know if she's not?" "If she doesn't come," said Bruce, "then I'll know." He seemed dejected, so Pearl pulled him to the window. "Look at all the pumpkins." The jack-o'-lanterns, even unlit, seemed to pump out their own orange energy into the green, dusky garden. More people were arriving as they watched, kids and grown-ups carrying pumpkins and placing them in a line along the sidewalk, more and more. "That's a lot of jack-o'-lanterns," was all Bruce said. And now here came Gully, carrying a big cardboard box. From the way he was walking, you could tell he was pleased with what he was about to do. Uh-oh. "Ew, what's he up to?" said Pearl. Then Ramon emerged behind Gully, beaming. Gully set the box on the ground, gesturing to Ramon, who lifted a jack-o'-lantern and held it up so Gully could put something inside. "Oh, it's candles," said Pearl. "Little candles for the jack-o'-lanterns." "Oh," Bruce said, "well, that's generous of him. I thought Gully hoped the library would go down in flames." That reminded Pearl how much she missed Nichols, still absent. "You could be generous too, Bruce Goose," she said. "The raccoon costume?" "Not a chance, Pearl girlie. I'm going to need that when." When, not if. So Bruce was already counting on having to leave, having to go back to being a park ranger? Pearl talked right over the end of his sentence so she wouldn't have to hear it. "I used to wish you were my father," she said all at once before she lost her nerve. "Not anymore," he said. He blinked and turned his face away. "I see." Pearl leaned on the door jamb, feeling weak. She had meant for what she said to make Bruce feel good, because she thought he was feeling bad. But all he had heard was that she didn't wish he was her father anymore. She wanted to hear him say that he wished she was his daughter, that he wasn't leaving. She was scared of what it meant that he didn't. After a moment, she said, "I'm sorry, Brucey, but I really need the raccoon costume." Unfortunately, right then, Mom appeared from the hallway. How long had she been there? "Pearl, go downstairs," she said. "I've asked you not to nag Bruce about that costume." "Fine," said Pearl. She picked up the bag with the awful headless horseman costume, but she didn't move. She stood glaring at both of them, but nothing she could think of seemed worth saying. She wanted them to fix things. She went pounding down the stairs to the children's room. "Pearl, where's your costume?" asked Alice. Right here, Pearl lied. She flapped past Alice, dropped the bag on the floor, and hurried to the front window to see what all the honking was about. A white van had pulled up. The honking got louder as Simon, Joey, and 3 teen girls opened the doors and jumped out. They all wore black shirts with a full moon and a dog on the back, a howling dog. Alice, do you know what that is? Alice went over to the window, her hands cradling her belly. Simon's nameless band, said Alice. Look at the shirts, said Pearl. Simon's nameless band was nameless no more, and they even had swag with their names on it. She called up to Bruce and Mom, Los Coyotes are here. They all ran outside. The 5 band members stood in the driveway, holding guitars, drumsticks, a violin in its case. Los Coyotes, said Joey. He's Lo, Simon Lo. Get it, said Simon, grinning. The band of coyotes. So you finally chose a name, said Bruce. And Pearl's our MC, said Simon. What's an MC, said Pearl. It's what she's been doing for weeks, isn't it, Bruce? Prepping audiences, telling them tales. Francine's the illustrator, the performer. Pearl's the storyteller. She's got the words to deliver. But they're coming about Vincent, protested Pearl. They're coming for the costume contest and the raccoons. They're coming for Los Coyotes. Not for me. And yet Pearl felt her confidence gathering together under her heart so that she stood taller like a building, wanting to do whatever was needed. Pearl, you're the reason they care about any of those things in the first place. You can talk anybody into loving this place. But what do I have to do? Asked Pearl. MC means Master of Ceremonies, said Bruce. It's what you've been working up to all this time, Pearlie. He took her by the shoulders and spoke softly just to her. Go ahead and tell your story, Pearl. Put in all the pieces you've experimented with and all the ones you've been working on for so long. Make it the best telling ever. He raised his voice, looking around. And get Francine in that rock lady costume to do her bit. Even louder. And if I'm not back in time, you guys need to get on stage without me. He nodded to Los Coyotes. Where are you going? I'm doing what you told me to do. I'm going to get that mare and bring her back here. He strode off through the alley and turned in the direction of the subway. Pearl's knees felt weak. At the same time, something had lit inside her, like a jack-o'-lantern with a candle that had just met its match. Simon, why does it have to be me? He just looked at her for a second, his mouth in a firm line. Then he towed her over to Oleg, who was setting up an apple-biting game with Alice. Simon said, Tell Pearl what you told me. Tell her about the kids in the audience at school. Oleg pointed a finger at Pearl. You! It's you who scared them. Yeah, Francine freaked them out, but you were the one who scared them and made them want to come and see. He waved his hand at the library, at Vincent. You made them feel like it would be cool to come, like they were invited. Pearl puffed out her cheeks. Hadn't she practiced and worked precisely for this moment? She told the nervous part of herself to shut up and got ready to scrape the sky. Mom butted in. Simon, get those microphones set up. Pearl, throw that costume on and come back down here in it pronto. Pearl squeezed the headless horseman bag and made a decision, but not the one Mom thought. I'm going, she told Mom. Our little Pearl, the master of ceremonies, said Alice, rotund in her Humpty costume. Perfect. And she huffed as though at least one thing was in order. Mom put an arm around Alice's egg costume shoulders and walked her down the driveway past the glowing jack-o'-lanterns. Pearl went into the library, but she didn't go upstairs to get ready. She went downstairs to the basement. Marianne and Eric were wide awake, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. It's a go, Pearl said. Will you be ready? Together, the raccoons gave her thumbs up, their teeth showing. Haven't seen Mr. Nichols, have you? Marianne shook her head. Pearl charged back up the stairs and emerged into the hallway. Pearl, are you going to get ready or not? It was Oleg. Right this minute, she promised. What about you? He was just wearing jeans and a black t-shirt. You don't look like someone who is about to present the library with a new head. Oh, I'm ready. Oleg whipped a day-glow rag out of his back pocket and pulled it over his head. In glow-in-the-dark letters it said, Rock Star. "Where'd you get that?" Pearl said in admiration. "Francine helped me make it," he said. "Now go." He turned and walked away, too. Pearl stood there alone. Okay, she thought. She threw the Headless Horseman bag into the yew bushes and made a dash for the library door. The place was mobbed. A crowd of people blocked the foyer, waving library cards as they approached. Ramon was manning the back hallway, selling beautiful prints of Yoix's ghostly, headless Vincent portrait. A steady stream of people flowed from the front door through the back hall. Pearl dodged them all, sprinted upstairs before anyone had time to notice her. She passed the eerie second floor with the caution tape crossing the reading room entrance, a plastic sheet covering the doorway. Bruce's office was dark, but Pearl didn't need to turn on the lights. By now, the entire neighborhood was there, all of Lancaster Avenue, and a bunch of people from neighborhoods beyond. Babies in front packs, toddlers in backpacks, teenagers in packs, grown-ups in pairs. Loads of little kids in costume were straining at their parents' hands or running amok, even climbing the statue. She scanned the crowd for Nichols. Would he really miss this? How could he? Other than Nichols' absence, it was great. Elsa was Harriet the spy. Someone was a pig, maybe Wilbur from Charlotte's Web. Charlotte's Web by E.B. White, illustrated by Garth Williams, Harper & Row, 1952. A little kid in a stocking hat was Peter from The Snowy Day. The Snowy Day by Ezra Jack Keats, Viking, 1962. There was a robot with blinking lights on top of some familiar-looking sloppy socks. Millie? It figured she would know how to wire that, even if Pearl wasn't sure which robot book it was from. Khadijah was dressed as the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. That was pretty cool. Some kids were even acting out the Rock Lady thing, chasing each other up and down the paths. Pearl couldn't believe she'd somehow convinced all these kids, the same ones who couldn't spare a moment to think about her at school, to be here doing this for books. It was some version of a dream come true. Pearl took a moment to think what Bruce would do if he knew what she was about to do. She decided things couldn't get any worse than they already were. She couldn't take any more moments. Now was the one that counted. The raccoon costume was even heavier than it looked. And the second she undid the hook at the neck, it fell from the hanger with a rip of opening Velcro. Pearl pointed the toes of her sneakers and maneuvered them through the legs of the costume, hoisting the torso up around her waist. It was way too big for her, just as Bruce had said. She tried to tuck some of the leg material inside her sneakers and settled for rolling them under at the ankles. Then she hefted the furry shoulders up over her own and hooked the costume at the neck. Pearl's stomach was doing funny things, but there was no time to get out of the costume now. She thought of one of the first things Marianne had ever told her, "Just do it." The slogan didn't say anything about waiting until the moment was just right and getting into huge trouble if you miscalculated. No guts, no story, thought Pearl. It was time for the final step, the head. She pulled a step stool over to the tall cabinet and began to climb up. She reached the top step and lifted the hollow raccoon head off the upside-down metal garbage can that supported it. The head was bulky, heavy, high, hard to lift off the can. A sidebar about surprise. You go along, and you think you know what to expect. A sort of rule of routine that comes with having been in one place a long time. And then, whammo! Something comes out of the blue and you do one of three things. 1, freeze. 2, leap into action. 3, zigzag. Pearl did all 3. By M.A.M. Come on, muscles! Pearl tugged harder on the head. Just one more careful pull. The raccoon's head loosened suddenly, and Pearl fell backward off the step stool and landed in a sliding pile of books and magazines. She gripped the head tight with one hand, her eyes squeezed shut in horror. She wouldn't drop the head. She couldn't, and she didn't. She anticipated the clanging, bashing fall of the garbage can. But it didn't come. "Pearl!" Francine hollered from far away at the foot of the stairs. Pearl pulled the raccoon head over her own head. "Coming!" she yelled, her voice muffled inside the head. She stood still for a moment and ran through her story in her mind. She thought of Vincent sending out power from her hand to make the books fly into the air, the stories raining down, their characters coming to life in the kids wearing costumes down below, the raccoons who had taught themselves how to read, and herself, a beautiful, fat, furry, striped, masked, reading raccoon. Bruce had been right about the mask being hard to see through. Pearl peered round the room, books strewn everywhere, budget plans, book posters, and there, on the file cabinet, sitting where the raccoon head had been, was not the metal garbage can, but Vincent's stone head.